This is the secret of confidence. There is a famous quote that goes like this: "Our life is dyed by the color of our thoughts." I think we can all agree that our thoughts affect how we feel and how we act. And this is exactly what Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoics, tried to explain 2,000 years ago. But the way he put it might surprise you. He said, "He who has overcome his own mind can overcome any situation." This is the secret of confidence, the Epictetus rule. If you can't control your thoughts, you can't control anything. So no matter what's happening outside of our control, whether it's good or bad, if we can master our thoughts, we will master ourselves. We will be confident and fearless in every circumstance. So let me ask you this: do you find yourself doubting your abilities? Are you constantly seeking validation from others before taking action? Do you get nervous and feel anxious when facing challenges or making decisions? Or maybe you don't. You seem super confident, but behind the scenes, are you afraid of failure? Maybe you're afraid of being judged or criticized by others. Trust me, you don't have to pretend to be confident. Confidence isn't about not having fears or doubts. In fact, even the most successful people in the world, they still deal with them. Confidence is about controlling those thoughts. It's not about the absence of fear or doubt, but rather what we do with them. The ancient Greek philosopher Epictetus understood this better than anyone else. He was a former slave who turned into one of the most influential philosophers in history. He said, "We cannot control the events that happen to us, but we can control how we choose to respond to them, and that's what defines us." So instead of blaming others or circumstances for our actions, what we should be focusing on is our thoughts, our beliefs, and our judgments. These are the things we actually have control over. So here's how we can apply the Epictetus rule in our lives. Step number 1 is to start with self-awareness. The first step towards controlling our thoughts is becoming more aware of them. We need to pay attention to the thoughts that run through our minds. When we become conscious of these thoughts, we can start to challenge their validity and question whether they are helpful or harmful. The Stoics believe that emotions like anger and fear were like fire. They can be dangerous and destructive if left unchecked, but they can also be useful if controlled and directed properly. So to use the fire analogy, we want to be like the engineer who can control the flame and direct its power, instead of being like the house that burns down because it is made of wood and filled with dry leaves, right? This requires a lot of self-discipline and constant practice. But with time, we can learn to observe our thoughts without judgment and become more aware of what's going on in our minds. And there's a very powerful tool that can help us with this process. If you've ever read books like Daring Greatly by Brené Brown or watched videos on her, you've probably heard about this tool already. It's called the Inner Compass, and it is a simple yet effective exercise that helps you understand where your thoughts and feelings are taking you. The way it works is pretty simple. Just imagine that you're at a fork in the road and you need to make a decision. Write down which path you would choose. Then ask yourself why you would choose that path. Is it because you want to avoid pain or discomfort? Or is it because you want to grow and become stronger? And then ask yourself how you think that choice will make you feel. Will it bring you joy and fulfillment? Or will it leave you feeling empty and unfulfilled? By doing this exercise regularly, you can start to become more aware of your thoughts and how they affect your actions and your feelings. You can start to notice patterns in your thinking and become better at identifying the thoughts that lead to negative emotions and unhelpful behaviors. Now let's move on to step number 2. This is about questioning your thoughts. Once you start to become more aware of your thoughts, the next step is to start questioning them. You see, many of our thoughts are not facts. They are just opinions and beliefs that we've been conditioned to think are true. For example, when you're faced with a challenging situation at work, you might think to yourself, "I'm not good enough," or "I'm not smart enough." But are these thoughts really true? Or are they just your beliefs and opinions based on past experiences and societal conditioning? When we start to question our thoughts, we begin to realize that many of them are just stories we've told ourselves. They're not facts. This can be a very powerful realization because it allows us to start to challenge our negative thoughts and replace them with more positive and helpful ones. Remember, we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we choose to respond to them. One thing you can do to help with this process is to ask yourself 3 simple questions. First, is this thought helpful? If it's not helpful, then why am I holding on to it? And third, what would it be like if I let go of this thought? If you find that your thoughts are causing you distress and preventing you from living the life you want to live, then it might be time to let go of them. This doesn't mean you have to ignore your thoughts or try to push them away. It just means that you need to acknowledge them, understand where they're coming from, and then decide whether or not they're worth holding on to. Moving on to step number 3, which is to practice self-compassion. The Stoics believed that the key to happiness and well-being was living in harmony with nature. And part of living in harmony with nature is accepting things as they are, including ourselves. We are all human beings, and as such, we are all imperfect. We all make mistakes, and sometimes our thoughts can get the best of us. But when we practice self-compassion, we give ourselves the opportunity to be kinder and more forgiving towards ourselves. We can all be our own worst critics, and we often have high expectations of ourselves. But when we start to practice self-compassion, we learn to let go of our perfectionism and accept ourselves as we are. We also learn to forgive ourselves for our mistakes and shortcomings. This can be a difficult thing to do, especially if we're not used to being kind and compassionate towards ourselves. But with time and practice, it becomes easier. And the benefits of doing so are immense. When we practice self-compassion, we free ourselves from the burden of our own perfectionism, and we open ourselves up to the possibility of living a more joyful and fulfilling life. And finally, step number 4, which is to take action. As the famous Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "We're not afraid of an army of lions led by a sheep. We're afraid of an army of sheep led by a lion." Too often we let our fears and doubts control us instead of the other way around. But when we take action, no matter how small, we start to feel a sense of control over our lives. Action is the antidote to fear and inaction. When we sit and dwell on our fears and doubts, they start to grow and take on a life of their own. But when we take action, we break the cycle of fear and start to feel more confident and in control. Taking action doesn't always mean doing something big and dramatic. Sometimes it just means showing up and doing the work. It's the little things that add up to make the biggest difference. Every time you take action, no matter how small, you're sending a message to yourself that you're in control. You're not letting your fears and doubts dictate your actions. And over time, this can become a habit. You start to feel more confident in your ability to take action and face your fears head-on. And this is the real secret to confidence. It's not about being fearless or having no doubts. It's about taking action despite our fears and doubts. It's about being in control of ourselves and our lives. If you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends and family. And if you'd like to learn more about the Stoics, check out my other videos on Marcus Aurelius and the 12 Rules of the Stoics. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay strong.